It's been a few weeks since I've left some reflections. We've been talking a lot about reinvention, and I wanted to give you a behind-the-scenes look of what's been going on around here. Much of this podcast is driven by the curiosity I have of what makes people do what they do, but it's also about what's holding us back from being what we want to be. The beauty of free will is that we each get a chance to choose, to rewrite our own stories. And in the last few episodes, you've heard from those who have had a variety of experiences. Someone who left corporate to start their own business, someone who is in corporate starting a side gig, and several coaches who work with high-performing executives, women recovering from their time in technology, and entrepreneurs who want to grow their business but sales get in the way. There's a part of this reinvention process that many people don't talk about, and today I'd like to give you a behind-the-scenes thought process. I want you to expand about what you think about reinvention. It doesn't mean you have to take everything and break it all down and start over again from scratch. It could be something as simple as doing one thing differently that you did the day before, revamping a process, or creating something new, just even making one small improvement. You know, we get a chance to reinvent ourselves every day, and today I'm dropping in to give you a couple of examples of how this might be able to look. This last month has been a real blur for me. I had a chance to take 2 different business trips, which was really unusual. I spend most of my workday in front of a computer screen or doing some writing, but it was good to get out of the office. And this change of scenery gave me some perspective I don't always have. So I want to propose that there's incredible power when we shake up our routines. The first trip's destination was to Arizona, and while I was there, I got to go visit Sedona. I've always heard about Sedona as this beautiful place, but the pictures you see can't even begin to do it justice. There's this saying that God created the Grand Canyon, but he lives in Sedona, and I would fully agree with that. The amazing red rocks, the beautiful sunrises and sunsets, and the sky is as broad and as dark as you can imagine. This little town of 10,000 that hosts 3 million visitors a year protects their dark sky with restrictions on their lighting, so the stars can shine brighter. We even had a chance to experience one of the vortexes while there. These are the swirling energy centers that are said to come from the red rocks. They're said to be conducive to healing, meditation, and self-exploration, and people are uplifted and inspired after visiting a vortex. My small group was walking near Boynton Canyon on our way to visit the Kachina Woman Rock when we walked into what had to be an energy field. Imagine the feeling, the electrical buzzing all over your body. You could step into the field and then step back outside the fringe. It was something I never experienced before. And it lasted for about 20 yards, and then we kept walking on the trail. When we got to the base of the rock, each of us found a place to sit quietly for a while. It was early in the morning before the crowd showed up. There was a storm coming in later that day, and I felt this cold breeze on my face as it started to blow in. I looked out in front of me, and what impressed me the most was the expansiveness of nature. These massive rocks were millions of years old. I felt a sense of connection sitting out in the vastness of the sky above me and the pull of the earth from the ground below. There was time to think about how I exist in the world, how interconnected we all are, how small I am in this big universe, and also how each one of us has an important role to play. It was so freeing, and it didn't escape me that it's representative of what lies in front of us every day. We get to create a life as we reinvent ourselves. It's where we get to choose between playing it safe and staying inside the proverbial box versus what can be possible if we take the time to get curious. The playing it safe is where our ego shows up, telling us we've never done this new thing before, and it might be risky. It tells you that you might have to get uncomfortable and you might have to grow. It might not go exactly according to plan, and it's just easier to do what you've always done before. I believe there is a time and place for routine, but I also know that when we shut the door on possibilities of trying something new is when we limit ourselves from moving forward in the potential of who we could be. A creatively lived life is when you choose the path of curiosity over fear. It felt so different as I sat there, and what was amazing is that there was no pressure to get anything done. There was a space that allowed me to be. It gave me time to think about what my role was. Why was I here, and what did my gut say? And as someone in the past who needed to know the plan ahead of me, I've learned now I don't need to know all the details. I listened to what my heart was telling me, and the nudge I heard was I was on the right track. But you don't have to go to the middle of a desert or a place of mystery and wonder to consider what you're trying to do with your life. We can move to the next version of ourselves by setting ourselves up intentionally. So let's look at the past. We get caught up in our lives, spending so much time at looking where we've been, what we could have done differently to get a better outcome. We're spending a lot of time trying to fit in, figuring out how we're going to survive, and using a lot of emotional energy. We listen to the stories that we tell ourselves that aren't even true, and we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never do to a friend. And then we agonize over what may happen in the future. We worry about what if things don't go according to plan, and for some reason we think we can control other people's behaviors. All the while, we're living today. Have you ever thought about that? Today is one of the days we were looking forward to in the future. And when you consider how much time we think about the future, and then when we get there, we fail to celebrate that we've arrived. I believe we allow ourselves to get overwhelmed. And one thing I know from my human design is that like 70% of the population, I tend to pull in too much information. I overthink. I spend too much time in my head churning the data over and over. I feel the need. I have to read more, consume more. It can never be enough. And when I get overwhelmed, one of the best things to do is to stop and take stock. I get curious, and it starts with a hum. To feel into what my body is telling me. I also have a technique I use. It's called always measure backwards. And I do it every Saturday morning to look at the week. What happened? What caused it to happen? And do I want it to happen again? When we get out of our environment, we can see things more clearly. And so this is why I like to encourage you to look at your routines. What do you do on a regular basis? Do you have a morning routine that sets you up for the day? What about networking? Do you go to a networking group because that's just what you do? Do you check your email first thing in the morning? Before you know it, you're already off your plan if you do. And how many times do you automatically get in the car and when you arrive, you don't even remember how you get there? I'm going to encourage you to switch things up. Take a different route to what you're doing and notice the details to be present in your life. It's when you can get out of your comfort zone that you'll be able to look differently at things. So here's one thing I'd like to suggest you do. Pull out your calendar and look at the last 30 to 60 days. Break down how much time you spent in meetings, how much time on networking or business development, how much time was spent on client work, and then there's the administrative functioning that tends to eat up a lot of your time. Calculate it all out. Is there a way you can consolidate some of these with time blocking? What do you need to do, and what do you have no business doing because it's not in your sweet spot, doing only what you can do? It's one way you can begin the reinvention process. The second trip I took was for my semi-annual mastermind meetup in Michigan. These in-person events are really important to the connections in the group. Even though we meet online every 2 weeks, there's nothing like being together. These in-person events give us an opportunity to speak, and this time it was my turn. I was given the opening talk to set the tone for the 2-day event. And my new content would share the story of my journey over the last 3 years as I went through the process of reinventing myself. To prepare for the talk, I worked with a coach who helped me see what parts I needed to leave in the story and what could be used in another format. Yes, I worked with a coach. Even though I help people create clear messaging, I help them discover who they really are underneath all of the stories they think. But it's next to impossible to do for yourself. And after testing out the new content and getting out of your comfort zone, it gives you feedback on what to use and how to move forward. I spent a lot of time preparing for it. Lots of effort, lots of practice, lots of pressure on myself to deliver a talk that would make a difference to get people thinking. And when it was over, I could enjoy the rest of the speakers. But after the celebration and the congratulations, I felt this emptiness inside. 2 months ago, I launched a major project, which was my new website. And now this talk was going to be the platform for the next phase of my work. I realized I didn't have another big project hanging over me. So I took advantage of the time that was in front of me to interact with the people of the group without the pressure of what was next. I had a chance to enjoy them, to get curious about who they are, to understand that there are some amazing people doing some inspiring things, and we can learn so much from each other. I get to see how we're different and how we're alike. And when I got home, I got to sit in the uncomfortable space of figuring out what was next. What's next? Well, the answer fell into my lap when one of my LinkedIn friends made a post. He shared a quote from the popular book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. You've probably heard this one. He who knows the why for his existence will be able to bear almost any how. But many people have not heard this one. A man who becomes conscious of the responsibility he bears towards a human being who affectionately waits for him or to an unfinished work will never be able to throw away his life. And that was my answer. That was what was next. It is my work that is affectionately waiting for me. It's the next chapter in my reinvention story. So what is that next thing, you might ask? The next thing is a book. Yes, I'm writing a book. I actually started outlining it a year ago until I came to the realization that there were more lessons to be learned. I wasn't quite ready, but now it is time to put words from my heart onto the virtual paper on my computer screen. And to help me along on this journey, I'm going to ask a favor. If you'd like to join in, I want to invite you to be part of my accountability. I could always write the book for myself, but knowing there is someone waiting to see if it is done will give me a boost. In the show notes, you're going to find a link to be on the waitlist. And if you join the waitlist, you'll learn more about the behind the scenes for updates, sneak peeks, and some special offers directly to your inbox. You'll also be notified when the book is ready. So it's your turn. What are you doing today to change your scenery, switching things up, getting out of your rut? And take time back from churning over what you may have done in the past and stop living your life in the future. Where can you wake up enough to know that the day you've been thinking about in the future is right in front of your nose? Take time to pause. I found this wonderful quote by Lyra that I'd like to share with you as I wrap up. It's this: there is literally nothing in nature that blooms all year long, so do not expect yourself to do so. Yes, there is a season for everything. Sometimes we plant, sometimes we grow, and sometimes we bloom. But nothing in nature will bloom all year. It's time to shake things up enough to enjoy the gift of getting to live today. Until next week, find something you're passionate about. Really lean into that feeling until you can take it as far as it goes. Be grateful for what you get to experience and let go of what no longer matters to you. And your purpose? It's learning more of what makes you the person you are. It's how you can build that personal brand of integrity, living a life of so much more on the way to becoming your legendary self.